All right, people, welcome to another edition of the New Breed Podcast, the world's best podcast, talking about everything new with the U. Yes, we're talking about new metal and new metal adjacent culture, lifestyle, and music. I'm one half of your hosting duo, Jay Horskow. With me, I have my partner in crime, the notorious TIM, Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how's it going?
Not bad, not bad.
You look kind of half asleep, man.
I am. I'm tired today.
It's a long work day, right? Long work day. Well, anyway, not to bury the lead here. With us today, we have a very special guest. We have the host of the Talk Toomey podcast, former bassist of Primer 55, Mr. Joshua Toomey. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be on.
And we are honored that you are on with us as well. So for those, Josh, that don't know your show or maybe don't know much about you, you want to give us a little bit of a bio intro?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, where do you start? I've been doing Talk Toomey for about 6 years now a part of Knotfest.com. I also do a Twitch show for them called Throwback Throwdown with Toomey on the Knotfest official Twitch, which is twitch.tv/KnotfestOfficial. If you want to check that out, Thursday nights, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. And then, former bass player Primer 55 joined during the new release album cycle. And then I also had a little known new metal band in Nashville called 12 Volt Negative Earth, opened for Limp Bizkit and a bunch of bands like that back in the day. So I'm all kinds of new metal and new metal adjacents.
Awesome. And this is going to be an interesting conversation for Tim and I, because typically when we have guests that are younger than us, or guests that remember new metal under the patina of nostalgia, right? Like, whereas we were kids and we were around right when it was before it was like, when it was cool, then not cool, then cool again. We were there for the first pass. So what were some of you were a bassist, right? You're a bassist for the band. You joined, was it second album cycle? How did that all come about? Did you just happen to be in the know
Well, with Primer, what happened there was I was friendly with the Wookubus over at the PRP, which is still a long-running new metal website. He had done some stories about 12 Volt Negative Earth and reviewed our CDs and just all around good dude. And one day Primer on Introduction to Mayhem posted about needing a bass player. And so I reached out to Wook and I was like, hey, can you help me out getting an audition? Because I had met Bobby and Jason, Bobby Burns, Jason Luttrell at a Primer show a few months before. And there was just an air about Bobby Burns that I was like, if you want to go somewhere, you got to be around this guy, kind of air about him. And so after I met him, talked to him, hung out for a little while with him that night, but I obviously didn't have an email or a phone number or anything for him. So reached out to Wook, said, hey, can you help me out? He got me an email. I went up to, that's what I was living in Nashville at the time. Louisville is about 3 hours north of Nashville. Drove up, auditioned, helped them audition drummers, was doing the whole shebang. And they actually ended up going with Kobe, who's on the photos on the second album at the time. But I kept in touch with Bobby, and then I actually saw them on the new release album cycle tour, I think with Fear Factory. And like the whole time I'm just like, I missed my opportunity. When I heard This Life for the first time, I heard it on a CD sampler called, this is a sign of the times. The CD sampler was called Dude, Where's My Skull? And it was just a little CD sampler with all these songs on it. And I pop it in the CD player, and we had a big stereo system at the house I was living in. I hit play on This Life, and my jaws dropped. I was just like, this is the greatest song I've ever heard. And I missed out on being in this band. And a little while later, I left the band that I was in. I had like 3 emails of people that I knew in the music business. One was Bobby. And I just said, hey, if you know anybody looking for a bass player, let me know. And he was like, well, actually, after this next Primer tour, I'm going to start a side project. So why don't you come up? Let me play you the demos. You're a good dude. We'll start this side project up. And I was like, okay, yeah, no problem. Go up to Louisville. I was like, man, he could have played me anything. And I've been like, yep, that's the greatest music I've ever heard. And I'll be in the band. Like there was no ifs, ands, or buts about getting in the band. And so after that night, I go back to Tennessee. He's like, all right, dude, I'll be back in 3 months. After this tour, we'll do this side project. And so I was working at Domino's, I think at the time I was 22. delivering pizza, and then I get a phone call one day. He's like, dude, can you learn the Primer set in 2 days? I'm like, sure. And so I basically, they sent me the set list. I go to Louisville. We practiced like 1.5 songs. The band was always fighting anyway, so they're like, can I cuss on this? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know. But they were fighting. We got through like 1.5 songs. They're like, fuck it, let's just pack the van, go on tour. And I'm like, well, shit. And we were actually auditioning, like bringing in a new drummer at the time too. And me and the new drummer just looked at each other like, well, here we go. And so we get in the van. First show, Brooklyn, New York. I play terrible. It's one of the worst shows I've ever played in my life. Like Julia from Fuse was there, like just all these random, New York people from the time. I mean, that was 2002, 2002, late 2002. And so I get off the stage and I'm like, I'm just bummed. And, I'm still learning the set and we haven't even, done one show yet. It's pretty crazy. And, we get in the van and we, obviously a few shows into it, we're fine. But, my introduction to mayhem, my introduction to Primer was a mess, man. I knew they had internal fighting. I knew they were always having issues, but man, I saw it firsthand and it was a mess like the entire time.
I mean, you literally got a song, you got about a song and a half. So that's about 5.5, 6 minutes of practicing. And then you went on tour.
Oh
right?
yeah. It was nothing more than song and a half. And, me and the drummer think we're, because we're both from local bands, quote unquote local bands. So, local band practice 3 hours every night, and yeah. you go and get into Primer 55 and you get a half a song. You better know this shit. Probably could have came a little bit more prepared on my end, but was not expecting the whirlwind of excitement that was Primer 55 at the time.
Shit, I thought you played guitar. I thought you played guitar this whole time.
Back the van, we're going. It's like,
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And then like I said, about a week into the tour, everything was smoothed out. And actually, Preston Nash came in to replace the drummer we had at the time. So kind of solidified the rhythm section there for a little bit, because obviously I wasn't 100% sure of the music. The drummer definitely wasn't 100% sure of the music. So just the backbone of the band, period, being that unstable was crazy. So Preston coming back into the band kind of soothed me a little bit to kind of mellow myself out a little bit.
So you did 2 stints in the band, right? Like you guys got back together?
Yeah, it's if you look at the Wikipedia, I'm like the longest standing bass player in Primer, but that's because I was the last bass player from like the original run and the first bass player from the second run we did in 2007. Gotcha. So jokingly, yeah, I was in the band for 5 years, but we were inactive for 4.5 of those. No, in 2007, I got word that they were putting together kind of a B-sides and rarities CD, and so basically I reached out to Bobby. I was like, hey, what's up with the band? Are we doing something? And to go back a little bit, after the Primer tour, we did do the side project. There was a band we called it Beautiful. And it was actually very kind of emo at the time. It was kind of the very early days of emo, which is kind of weird looking back on how, maybe Bobby had his finger on the pulse or something of what was coming next. But as we were kind of doing the demos for that band, that's when he gets the email from Gloria saying, hey, would you like to join Soulfly? And I was sitting there and he was like, hey man, I just got an email from from Soulfly wanting me to join. What do you think? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do I think? You go join Soulfly. So because I had uprooted myself. I had moved from Nashville to Louisville, rented an apartment. We're going to do this band. We're going to get it together and go. And I think he felt a little bit of guilt about, I uprooted myself and he, went off on tour with Soulfly. So fast forward to 2007, he's been doing Soulfly for the last 4 years. They get an offer from a record label to put together this B-sides and rarities album. And I was like, are we going to tour on it? What are we doing? And he was like, yeah, he's like, well, I guess you were the last bass player, so I guess you're the first bass player of this incarnation kind of thing. Me and Bobby are good. I'm one of the few people that still talk to him and get along with him very well. But he's like, yeah, I'll send you out the tour dates. And the original tour dates were like 3 months and all these great venues and everything else. And then as Jay and I talked earlier, there was a period of time where nu metal was kind of a bad word. So nu metal in 2007 wasn't the biggest, crowd getter at the time. And so, we ended up playing a lot of places with bar and grill in the title and, to 20 people. But it was a really weird 20 people because I've been in bands where you play in front of 20 people, but it's 20 people that don't know who you are. And so, you're trying to win them over or whatever. But if you walk out on stage and there's 20 people there, but they all know every word of the song, it's a very bizarre feeling because you want to put on a great show because those people are fans of the band. But you also kind of feel down because there's only 20 people there. So you're in a weird like juxtaposition, like trying to get up there and put on an arena rock show in front of like nobody.
Yeah, it was weird how Tim and I think we talked about this in a previous episode. It was weird how nu metal was the thing, and you kind of got the sense. I always say it goes back to the Seton Hall's 15th anniversary birthday bash I think it was 2001, where you started to see the baton being passed. Oh yeah. Right, you have these up and coming. I mean, Killswitch opens the show.
Yeah.
Right. And on the event is Killswitch and Lamb of God and God Forbid and Chimera. But it was also Primal 55. It was Reveille. It was a whole bunch of different stuff. And you could kind of sort of sense that maybe things were changing. But I figured it was still going. Machine Head's going out. They took Primal 55 and Reveille. And then Fear Factory took a bunch of nu metal bands out. They were Slaves on Dope. It was late opening for them. I think it was 2005, 2006. And then all of a sudden it just like, it was like poof, and just everything was just gone. And it was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're doing new wave of American heavy metal now. Right. I guess that's our thing. Yeah.
In comes Bullet with what are they called?
Bullet for my Valentine.
Yeah. In comes that band, and then everybody wanted to sound like them.
True. Well, it's funny. I had a lot of friends that we all grew up on Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer, thrash bands, but then 94 hits, Korn hits. I'm at the same time I'm listening to Megadeth and Metallica, I'm also listening to Faith No More and Biohazard and all the early, kind of the architects of nu metal. And so like when Korn comes out, I'm 15, I'm in middle, high school. This is my band, this is my scene, this is my wave of music kind of coming out. And so you fall into the Deftones and Korn and Coal Chambers of the world and Fear Factory and all the early nu metal bands. And then so, I mean, by the time 2004, 2005 rolls around, I mean, that's been a 10-year span of nu metal, and most genres of music kind of last, grunge really only lasted 4 or 5 years. The big ones, they all either faded away or died, but so, I mean,
you're right.
Nu metal had a huge lifespan, but at the same time, like all of my metal loving friends that got into nu metal, when we started hearing Killswitch and Unearth and all those guys kind of coming out of up there around you guys up in the Northeast, man, like we were like, oh, we can play guitar solos again. It's not all it's not all detuned and zeros and ones on the guitar anymore. It's like actual shredding again. And it was just a breath of fresh air, really. Like, because I mean, by the time you got to Killswitch Engage, I mean, you were on 4th, 5th generation nu metal bands, and they were getting pretty silly out there at the time. I mean, like Shovel and those bands, and I enjoyed some Shovel, don't get me wrong, but I mean, there was definitely a saturation point that the musicianship and everything else just kind of got silly.
It was the copy of a copy of a copy. Eventually it becomes too derivative, and I think Tim said this in a previous episode. Your first, second, third generation nu metal bands all had unique influences that were not nu metal. Right. Once you get bands who's signed to a label, they're a nu metal band, and their biggest influence is Korn, while by definition they're going to sound a lot like what you've heard before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you get into it's funny, you hear the bands at the time and you're like, oh well, this is actually just what music sounds like. you hear a band and you're like, oh, well, yeah, it does sound like Deftones, but that's just what music sounds like right now. But now when you go back and listen to it, you're like, wow, those guys are just 100% ripping off the Deftones.
Tim, I told before we started recording, I told Josh my line about how it got to a certain point where everything just sounded like Primer 55 with Steven Richards from Taproot singing. Like it was all the same.
But you're not lying at all.
No, I mean, it's the labels get hungry and they run out and they sign everybody that kind of sounds in that milieu. And it's my thing was the best part about the first couple years of nu metal is all the bands were different but the same.
Yeah.
Whereas eventually the labels got to the point where they were signing stuff that was the same but different. And that's where it really became like almost a tipping point. So let me ask you this, Josh. Going out with those guys and touring, what were some of the bands that you kind of think, man, they should have been bigger? Or I wonder why they had some talent there. They should have done more than what they did. What were some of that like stand out in your mind?
Wow. I'm racking my brain here. I mean, the easy ones, like maybe like a Snot, but just mainly, but he, Lynn passed away kind of before, they could have really taken off on that second record. I mean, even when you get into bands like Sevendust, I mean, I think Sevendust should be way bigger than they are over the years. Man, that's a tough question. Off the top of my head, I'm just kind of racking my brain here on that one. Man, that was a good one. That was not in the pre-show notes that you said.
I'm always curious to hear like the actual musicians, right? Because I don't play an instrument. I'm always curious to hear what your thoughts are because you have the competence to play the instrument. So they're going to be somebody that I think they sound great, and you get out and you go, dude, it's all bullshit studio trickery. It's Rings of Saturn spun up 2 times speed. Trust me, it's not as good as you think it is. Like that's why I asked that question, because I'm always genuinely curious.
I think I can go the other way on that question, and the bands that I think that are bigger than I thought they would ever be, like Disturbed, I don't understand how that ever became a thing. And like, as much as I enjoy Static X, I don't remember them ever, like when they became so big. Like it's a very bizarre, rest in peace Wayne Static and all, but it's just, I don't remember them being that big back in the day. But there's also that, they go away and come back to bigger, audiences, things like that. But yeah, Disturbed was always a weird one for me. I always thought that the band was just goofy. And for the fact that they got as big as they are blows me away. Like festival headliners, when you guys are talking about doing a nu metal fest, I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, you can do a nu metal fest, but I mean, obviously if you look at any festival right now, top headliners right now are all kind of the classics of the nu metal genre now. And then, it kind of goes down from there. But yeah, festival headliners now, Disturbed, Linkin Park, not Linkin Park, but Limp Bizkit. Yeah,
Limp Bizkit, like
like what's going on, man?
And you made me think of something, Josh. We're at the point where we've reached the nu metal revival, but if life is cyclical, so things repeat. Grunge never had a revival, did they? There was never a, hey, I want to sound like Alice in Chains mixed with Nirvana, mixed with Bad Motorfinger. Like, and now that I think about it, I don't think grunge ever had the revival.
I don't think grunge really had a revival, but I think grunge kind of became the sound of just radio rock. The Bushes, the Puddle of Mud, all those kind of bands that came along later. Like grunge is just what music sounds like now.
No, yeah, I think a lot of hardcore kids are trying to throw grunge into their music and just go from there. I just can't remember the band now. They're from the UK and they have
Higher Power.
Sound. Yeah, dude, that band's
Higher Power. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's like VOD with Ozzy singing for them.
Yeah.
They're not bad. But now that I said that out loud and I've spoken that energy into the world, now it's going to happen. And now I guess what comes after the nu metal revival, is it swoop haircuts again, white belts, swoop haircuts, bell bottoms?
Just from the interviews I do now, it's funny. Some of the bands that I still consider new are like on their 7th record. Like A Story of the Year and Memphis May Fire and all those bands that were big in 2007. I mean, 2007 was 14 years ago now.
And they're still going.
And yeah, it's funny to me, like, oh, this is a new current band I'm going to have on the podcast. And then I realized that, they've been out over a decade.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing. You talked about Static X, right? I think Static X's big thing was they did album tour nonstop for what was that, like 12 years? They did 6 or 7 records nonstop every other year. And I guess they kind of like, I guess the nearest analog you can compare to them to in metal would be, I guess, like a Black Dahlia Murder. Right. And I'm a big Black Dahlia Murder fan, right? I think the fact that they don't take themselves seriously makes them that much more enjoyable. But they're every other year, we got a new album and then there's a tour behind it. And I think that there's something to be said about not the grind, but the ability to stay relevant and to continue making new stuff that your fans want to hear.
It's lifer shit, man. Them dudes like Tony, they're just lifers, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same with Trevor,
Yeah. I mean, the guys from Every Time I Die, right? They talk proudly about how, we don't want to work real jobs. This is what we do. And and they've put out good shit. Speaking of that, have you guys listened to the new Turnstile? Wildly changing topics.
Yeah, it's all right.
No? What do you mean? It's a natural progression from where they were heading with the last album. I think this is right where it's supposed to be. And it's markedly better than that last Angel Dust album, which was just, it was like the Lemonheads. It was, God, I don't know what they were thinking. Like, I don't want to hear Evan Dando. What is this?
Roadrunner is signing a lot of weird ones, but hey, I get it.
Gotta refresh the backlog here and there. So speaking of newer bands, Josh, what are some of the stuff that you've come across lately that's either like kind of like new metal revival, new metal adjacent, that you're like, this is good, this may have some legs?
I mean, the with Knotfest Twitch, I also do a show called First Listen. It's on Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Me and a funny, hilarious dude, Hardcore Keem. If you ever search him out on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, he's hilarious, man. He cracks me up. He just kind of does video reactions on his channel, but man, he's super funny. But yeah, we do a show together called First Listen, where we basically listen to a first album, the album that comes out that day. So I mean, through that, I've Vexed. I'm really enjoying the new Vexed album, VEXED. Slaughtered to Prevail, like that album was Jesus
bonkers, Christ, absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, that was one of those like Keem had heard it and our producer had heard it, but they're like, dude, you are in for a treat. And I was just like, every time I would think it was as nuts as it was going to get, it would get even crazier. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, they're doing something right in Russia. Yeah.
I had no idea who they were until we've had Adam from Orthodox on a couple times, and they toured with them, he told the story of where it was sound check and the lead singer basically just like comes up in like board shorts and flip-flops. He's like, you want me to sing? And they're like, yeah, we gotta check the vocals. And Adam's like, this guy literally just rolled out of the van and he just starts barking into the microphone, and it's perfect gutturals. And Adam is like, how is he doing this? And then that song, what was it, Baba Yaga, came out, and I was like, this video is everything I want brutal death metal to be. Like, there's nothing missing.
Right. Yeah, they're great. And I mean, we did the latest Fear Factory album, which I hate that Burton is not able to tour and promote that, because that might be one of the best of their career. So I mean, check out stuff here and there. New Devil Wears Prada was pretty good, stuff like that.
I'm happy to hear someone bring up Vexed, because I think that's one of the best records of the year.
Yeah, they definitely, we don't have a actual running tally, but I think that they've been like 1-2 like for us the entire year. Every time we do a new album, we're like, is it better than the Vexed? Is it better than the Fear Factory? And they've stayed up there pretty good. I've got a really good interview with Megan on YouTube, on the Knotfest YouTube. She did about 10 minutes with me, but yeah, it's one of those things where, super crazy growly on the album, and then in real life, they're like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. They're like so normal and well adjusted. Yeah. You're kind of like, where does that come from?
Like she was excited to be on Knotfest. It's like, it was just, I can't believe I'm here, kind of thing. And I'm like, I can't believe you're here either.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be cool for younger bands like that are grew up and listening to Slipknot and seeing all that kind of stuff. So I see that. I've said it a few times. That's been the craziest part about all this, because just for people listening that don't know what's going on at knotfest.com, but they've kind of
they, pre-pandemic, it was about the festival. It was about, the bands that were coming up. It was mainly all about the festival. And then pandemic hits, they take the site, they get writers and podcasters like myself and people making content basically over there. And about a year into it, I jumped on board, and because I've been seeing what they were doing and kept in touch. And when I did the Twitch, then they liked what I did on the Twitch. Because my show is basically interviews. I do about 2 to 3 interviews a show, which is, it's always fun, trying to cram for 3 interviews. And
it's a lot of homework, man. It's a lot of homework.
I try to get, I try to get a lot of people where I don't have to do a lot of homework, where I just already know all of the, or I know what I want to know. But it's always, I like the challenge of new unknown artists too, and try to figure out my angle with those guys too. But yeah, I had Heidi from Butcher Babies on my first episode. After the episode, I thought I did terrible. I was like, man, they're going to kick me off the channel. This was terrible. And then I get a text like, hey, you did a great job. We definitely want us to talk about bringing your podcast on board too. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what you guys are watching, but no, it was fun. Looking back on it, I was just probably more nervous than anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, were the nerves up on that one?
We've been doing it for, I think we're going into our 4th month on the Twitch, which is all live. And so, I'm not 100% comfortable with where I am now, but at the time, going live and talking just to the camera, to people I don't know. Yeah, I've gone live on Facebook and YouTube and stuff, but it's my friends and people that follow me that already know me. So it's not as intimidating, but when you go live on the Knotfest Twitch, I just assume the other side of the camera is, Slipknot fans ready to just be like, what's this poser doing? Like,
yeah.
Oh, he said the name of the band wrong. Let's get him, or something like that.
Get this guy out of here.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been fun, man, getting on and talking to people and just like I said, getting the people I know and the people, Sonny from POD came on, but then we had Tim Williams of VOD come on. I didn't mean to put them back to back like that, but I should be the tagline. Everyone from POD to VOD.
VOD. There you go. That sells itself. I think you're right though. It's been noticeable from the outside, from a fan, that in the last year or so, they've kind of rebranded that as more of a, not even like I don't want to say like a content collection, because that makes it seem less curated than it is. But it's there's videos breaking, there's bands doing live sets like that. They've turned that, they've literally made lemonade out of lemons, right? And they've turned that into a platform that it doesn't need to be a label or this or that. It really is just a collective of people who are all into the same shit, which is really kind of cool. I mean, Tim, didn't one of his songs premiere on Knotfest?
Yep.
Zone Zero?
Yeah.
And my thing was 156 Silence did that whole live set, which I swear that band, I hope to God they hit the road, because I think that album is amazing. And it came out right as the pandemic hit, which kind of sucked for them, but they sound awesome. But yeah, I mean, I think that's been brilliant on Slipknot's part to turn it into a platform to get music, keep this music relevant, right? Because it's real easy to, we're the same age. So you remember, right, in the late 80s, early 90s, when metal kind of just faded away. Like there was like Morbid Angel and there was some other stuff out there, but for the most part, it was really underground. And I don't think anybody wants that to happen again.
Well, I think what the Twitch is, what they're trying to do is kind of like an MTV. It's Monday through Friday, content from 4 to 12 Eastern. There's shows all day long. There's a countdown show. There's a Knotfest daily show where there's basically news breaking every day. You've got my show, which is interview based with artists that are up and coming, and also the legacy artists, things like that. You've got guys on there like the Daniel Decay's Riff Wars, where it's like 2 shredders going at it, and they even had new bassist for Slipknot came on and he played Slipknot songs on the Twitch stream, things like that. So they're trying to incorporate everything. A lot of people are still kind of confused on what's going on. They're like, so is this like, people are asking me if this is still going to continue after Knotfest Iowa, and I'm like, it's not all about the festival. It's a thing now. It's a platform. Yeah. People are like, I posted that Mark from Chimera was going to be on the show. 5 people in the comment section, Chimera's getting back together and they're playing Knotfest. This is crazy, no. So even publicists, you got kind of recalibrate their thoughts on everything. Be like, no, this isn't about Knotfest. If they're not playing Knotfest, it's okay if they come on. I think when I had Frank Bello from Anthrax on, the promoter was like, I don't think they're playing Knotfest this year, and I'm like, it's not about playing Knotfest. Like.
It's sad when you got to re-explain it to the industry people, because you're like, look, of all the people in this room, I would expect you to get it better than everybody else.
Yeah,
but
right.
Let me try it again for those of the cheap sheets who are not paying attention.
I was thinking like long form conversations, like kind of like this, but even the longer ones, like hour and a half, 2 hours, they're hard to do, but they get easy after like the 10th one you do. But I think doing like a 10-minute one and making it like, and asking the right questions and making the listener be engaged, that's even harder when I think about it.
Oh, absolutely.
You only get 10 minutes with an artist that you really like, and then you have to make that 10 minutes like magic. That's great. I salute people that can do that shit, man.
Oh yeah, it's definitely, that's a tough one. I mean, in the past, not so much now, but starting out, they're like, blah, blah, the certain artist is doing press, he has 12 minutes. And you're like, 12 minutes? What am I going to do in 12 minutes?
Exactly.
You basically, new album title. Where did you record it? When are you going on tour? When is it out? Thank you very much. Move on to the next one. Today, as we record this, I interviewed Jason Newsted, and I was just like, I got the okay for the interview on Friday, but they didn't give me a time limit. I didn't know how long I had. So I was like, please don't be like 15 minutes. Because what are you going to say to Jason Newsted in 15 minutes? Yeah. And then, and so I emailed him back, and I was like, what's the time limit on this? They're like, oh, well, as long as he's done by 1, which would have been an hour interview. And I'm like, thank you. He actually went over a little bit. We actually talked for over an hour, and there was still, there's Jason Newsted. There's a million things you can talk to him about.
Right.
But one nice thing about this was it was 30th anniversary of the Black Album centric. So you have a focus, and you don't have to, sometimes like you'll get a Max Cavalera or something like that. And you want to ask Roots questions, or you want to ask about Chaos AD or, anything, but you also need to ask about the new album. So you're like, hey, what's up with the, you're like, hey, what's up with the new album? Where'd you record it? What's going on? When you go on tour? So when you guys recorded Ross Robinson Roots, you gotta
the other side of that, Josh, I think you'll admit it, right? Like, put yourself in the artist's shoes, right? Like, if you're telling me I have 10 phone calls back to back, each one 12 minutes, and each one is going to be Tim, Jay, and Josh all saying, when's the new album come out? Where'd you get the title? What songs make you excited? You got, at some point, you got to feel like just like a one of those dummies with the string in the background. Just pull the string and I give a canned answer. And that's why Tim and I are convinced that one of the best podcast interviewers in the game is Doc Coyle, because you can tell he goes in and he literally just sits down and they have a couple beers and they have a conversation, and he goes and that's where the other thing, Tim, to your point about short interview blocks, it's hard to build that momentum where Josh says something where, okay, I want to pull on that string and see where that goes, because that wasn't something I planned on talking about, but let's go that way, which is what makes for good shows. It's kind of hard when you're like, okay, I got 6 minutes left. The new tours with who and where are you playing in Philly? It's like,
it's kind of like being in a band and you look on the side of stage and your timer's going down and you're like, but we just started getting good.
Yeah. I can imagine one of those like those old Ozfest, shows where you got 20 minutes or 15 minutes. You wake up at 9:30 in the morning to be on stage at 10 to play your 20-minute set and get off at at noon or 11 o'clock. It's like yeah, I mean, the only thing you're paying for then is the name on the flyer if you're playing at 10:30 in the morning on an Ozfest.
I want to go back to Newsted though. How fucking lucky is that dude to be on the Black album? I mean, like, that record still sells how many records a week?
It's like 2,000, yeah.
It's fucking great.
It's insane.
Well, that's the joking about that album, but I mean, anytime you see one of your favorite bands post about their new album, they're like, dude, we charted at number 3 on this chart. The Black album is always number 2 or 4. Like it's still there. Yeah. It's insane. And I mean, just It's funny, doing a podcast about the Black Album, the one album that does not need any promotion ever.
Right.
Is like it's kind of ridiculous, man. And I went back and I watched, I don't know how big a Metallica fan you guys are, but I went back and rewatched, a year and a half in the life of Metallica, and I was watching all these old, live clips and stuff. I'm like, man, this is just an insane world that I'm about to talk to Jason Newsted. And, he's one of those dudes, like, trying to get to him is impossible. He has no social media. He doesn't have a record out. Doesn't have a record label. He doesn't have, there's not like that, a publicist you can go, hey, how do I get in touch with this guy? Like, thank you. I found my channel, and it was still crazy. I still had to go through Metallica management to get it okayed, but thankfully I have that knotfest.com on my resume. So they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. Okay, cool.
Tim and I, they would have been like, who?
For him? That's crazy.
But
you still have to go through Metallica for Newsted?
Well, I think he had to, since it was about the Black Album, and I'm on, I'm sure he doesn't want to ruffle any feathers over at the Q Prime, management over there.
Gotcha.
Right.
I think that record keeps CD plants in fucking business. Just
right. There's always that.
If we called them up, they would have been like, "Who are you guys?
Yeah,
Where Philly? Where the fuck is Philly? No."
Right.
But I mean, Josh brings up a great point, right? That is truly like, that album is like a North Star for anybody that likes extreme music of any type. Yeah. That was the beacon, right? Like, they put that out in 91, and it totally reinvigorated an entire genre. I mean, that was my first concert, Wherever I May Roam, back in 91 at the Meadowlands.
Nice.
Man, I'm like, my God, I mean, my dad get tickets for me. He's this yuppie standing there in like a suit and shit with all these metalheads waiting in line. Remember when you used to have to wait in line at Ticketmaster and pray that they weren't sold out by the time you got to buy a ticket? Yeah.
I think kind of wild. I think that record might have one of the best distortion tones ever.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even the production's amazing on that record. And it's 1991. You know what I mean? Like, there's records nowadays that don't sound as good as that. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a benchmark record. I mean, the bass tone on that album is great. The drums sound awesome. Obviously the vocals are great. Like I'm 42. That album came out when I was 12, and my cousins and White Snake and all the hair metal and all that stuff was around at the time, but I didn't really connect with it. It didn't connect with me at all. Like it. I liked Kiss, don't get me wrong, because Monsters and Spaceman and everything else. I loved making Kiss. And so I was all about that. But man, when I saw like Enter Sandman video, and like, it just really hit me like how awesome this was. I mean, I bought a bass right after that and wanted to be Cliff Burton, wanted to be Jason Newsted, covered my walls in Metallica posters, like no other band, Metallica, that's it. And so, basically today, seeing Jason Newsted pop up on my computer screen, I'm 42 years old, and I'm like, oh my God.
12-year-old you is like, oh my God, what do I say?
It's like, it's like one of them things where like you tell all your friends and family, like, dude, I just interviewed Jason Newsted, and they're like, oh, okay. Oh, cool. But like,
the family doesn't get it.
You were like super excited.
Well, I think that there's a few dudes like that. Like I think Jason Newsted, I mean, family members would probably get it. I would have to say Metallica bass player, and then they would know like how cool that was for me. They might not know Jason's name, but I mean, I've had I work with some guys that are older, and so sometimes they're like, who did you interview this week? Kind of messing with me, and I'm like, you don't know who they are. But then sometimes I can be like Judas Priest guitar player KK Downing or Dee Snider, like they know those dudes. Like those are those are the ones that kind of transcend just our age group and younger. Like when the older guys I work with, I can go, hey, I just talked to Dee Snider, and they're like, oh shit. So Jason's going to be one of those. I interviewed the bass player from Metallica. Like, oh man, that'd be awesome.
Let me ask you this: like back in the day, 90s radio, FM radio is huge. You get them 2-minute interviews with bands, blah blah blah. Everybody loves it. But nowadays, it's the podcasting and it's the Twitch and the Zoom and stuff. Like I can even ask Jadis, because I don't think I've ever asked him. But do you guys think this is the new normal? Like I think radio honestly is dead, and I think stuff like this is the reason, because you get the long form and you get to actually talk to an artist like you, and you actually get stuff that you always wanted to hear. But in radio, it's just like they worry more about the commercials and all that kind of shit. Like, do you guys think there's a time where this just completely takes over and this is something you might hear on airwaves, like because they have no other choice, or do they just hang on forever with that?
I think there'll always be a place for radio, and it's mainly like classic rock radio, like those type things, and even I guess anything that you can put on that you can play in a garage, or a Goodwill or something, like anything you can play, and people aren't gonna freak out. They're not playing the Black Dahlia Murder. They're playing Lynyrd Skynyrd for the 30th time. There's probably always going to be a place for that. I mean, even back in the 90s, I mean, as much as we liked metal and Metallica and everything else, I mean, I remember hearing one on the radio I guess I was driving, so I mean that would have been 95,
6, 7,
somewhere in there. And it was still weird because it was if they played Metallica, they were playing Enter Sandman, Nothing Else Matters, so they were playing like a deeper track, or even hearing mandatory Metallica at night, 9 o'clock, 3 back-to-back Metallica songs. They weren't playing Pantera and stuff like that on the radio back in the day. So I mean, I was more into like Headbangers Ball, like you're talking earlier about Morbid Angel video and a Carcass video and Obituary and all that stuff, and kind of getting that 2 hours on Saturday night to kind of hear my music. And I've never really been the one that's been like, why doesn't the mainstream like my music? I've always been, I'm going to support Ricky Rackman at midnight on Saturday. I'm not going to go crying to the local radio station of why you're not playing more Sepultura.
Right. I think Rogan being picked up by Spotify, he will be some sort of like terrestrial radio that's just podcasts and such. However, I mean, I will tell you, I was thinking about radio the other day. So, Josh, we were lining up. We're working with the band Dead, DED, to come on. I
just had Joe on the Twitch the other day.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
So I was listening to their stuff, and I listened to that newest single. My first thought was, shit, this should be on the radio, right? Yeah. This is totally acceptable for radio. And then I went down some weird sort of mental rabbit hole where I think there still is a place. It's almost kind of like Sirius, but not paid for, right? Where somebody just tunes in and they get hit with a whole bunch of stuff that maybe they like, maybe they don't like, but in an hour worth of listening, you're probably going to come out with 6 or 7 bands you really do like, maybe 2 or 3 you've never even heard before. And I use the example all the time, Josh, WSOU, right? Seton Hall's Pirate Radio. That's what I grew up listening to. And in an hour, you could hear Metallica, you could hear Hatebreed, you could hear Slipknot, you could hear The Cure, and then you could hear like KMFDM. So it was all over the place, but it was all stuff that was far enough outside the mainstream that never would have gotten on, but like a K-Rock or whatever. And that was, I still think there's a place for that. It's just, the demand needs to be there. But like you said, Tim, terrestrial radio is dead. If you ever turn it on, it's the same 6 fucking Taylor Swift songs over and over again with the same 4 commercials.
Hey, we don't talk bad about Taylor Swift. We went to the same high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man. No, but my point being is I would think that somebody would be like, you know what, Josh, I got this investment I made. Some guy in Clear Channel calls you up and says, hey, I got this investment I made. I got programming blocks. You want to do like a 6-hour drive time where we just, play death metal and scream? Okay, let's go for it. Why wouldn't you take a flyer?
Well, and unfortunately, I think that's what Sirius and XM, when they were 2 different companies, I think that's kind of how they started out. And then I think that they kind of fell into the trap of, well, their song selection kept getting smaller and smaller, to where now they're playing the singles from those bands when you were first kind of sold the bill of goods of satellite radio, it was going to be a free for all and cussing and no commercials and you were going to get those deep tracks and all this other stuff. And then now it's unfortunately, Enter Sandman still keeps people listening rather than Struggle Within, or anything like that. Right. and so you're talking about, the podcasting and podcasting taking over. And one big thing that kind of showed it was SiriusXM with that volume channel that they have, because it's technically a 24-hour podcast channel, because that's the one show, like Eddie Trunk's on that, but there's no music. Like it's 2 hours of Eddie Trunk interviews and just him talking. There's no music. So, I mean, technically the SiriusXM's tried to make a podcast channel, because, I mean, you've got, Rogan signed $100,000 or $100 million, deal, but you've also got, My Favorite Murder signing a $10 million deal. You've got podcasts out there signing $1 million deals for two girls talking about murder. It's like, I mean, and my wife loves it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, she's listening to it right now. She's not listening to this. She's listening to, and then they found the body, severed in 37 pieces, shit like that. It's like, and so, I mean, I think the sky's the limit for podcasting. I think, even because I started my show in 2015, and even in some circles, I mean, that was late to the game, because, there was, 2011, 2005, when podcasting first kind of started popping up. But I think that, I mean, with obviously everybody wants to be Joe Rogan. I mean, you tell anybody, you tell your parents that you have a podcast, they're like, oh, well, you should look about getting Joe Rogan on the podcast. Like,
yeah, sure, I'll just ring him up. Yeah.
So I think when I told my mom that, she's like, oh, you must make a lot of money. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah. I wish we were all making lots of money. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it can happen. You just have to be good at what you're doing. You have to.
You got to be good, and we talked about this. You got to be persistent. You have to put out quality consistently, right? And that's really what it comes down to, because how many podcasts have started and stopped?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like a dozen, 13, 14, 15 episodes in, and then they just fall by the wayside. You need to be consistent, right? Speaking of podcasts that don't exist anymore, Tim Williams from VOT had a podcast, and it was the funniest fucking thing in the world, because it was him and what's his name, the bassist, and they have those ridiculous New York accents. So it was hysterical. And they had a whole segment. It was, Max Cavalier's Bring the Shit, and they would do a toilet flush sound. And like, I would laugh hysterically because I get the reference, but like it's nice. Easy to start, but it's hard to be consistent. And that's, I think, what catches a lot of people up.
Yeah. Speaking of, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, if it wasn't for, my podcast comes out on Thursday, and I might be a procrastinator and be working on it Wednesday at midnight, but it's going to come out on Thursday. And if it doesn't, that's rarely happened, but I'll post about it or whatever. But if it wasn't for that, if it was just post an episode whenever you get one done, I probably wouldn't be anywhere near where I am in the podcasting world. But the fact that I have all right, you have to have it, you have to have a guest, and you have to have a podcast, and you have to have it out on Thursday. Like, so, I mean, there's definitely been Tuesdays where I'm like, all right, who do I know that I can call and get them on the podcast real quick? There's definitely been those days.
Yeah, for sure. So you said you started it in 2015?
Yeah.
Well, so what leads you to want to start it? I mean, because back then there wasn't really many doing, music pod. Like, it was more like you said, it was all the murder stuff and the that kind of shit. But
I should have started a murder one.
Yeah, right. True crime, right?
Yeah, in hindsight, no, I had got a new job, and I had looked into internet radio. I had looked into it and trying to figure out how it worked. But I mean, honestly, the internet back then, speed wise, and my computer and everything else, zero chance I could have done it and been any good at it. But the job that I had, I didn't get very good cell phone reception. I was listening to like iHeartRadio in my headphones and things like that, but it would cut in and out. And I was like, I need something else. I need something I can download. And I was like, I don't even know how I heard of a podcast, but I had heard, Eddie Trunk and Jamie Josta. Josta was on like episode 40, I think. And so I went and I found his show, downloaded a few of those. And after this would have been about 2014. And after a little while, I was like, I can do this. Like, especially when it's, Josta was very bare bones, 2 microphones, and no bells and whistles. And I was like, I know enough people in music. That's why my first 10 episodes of Talk Toomey had decent guests on it, because I was not a dick when I played music. So I first episode, Barry Donegan of the band Look What I Did, friend from back home. Episode 2, Billy Gray from Fozzy, who was also in Primer 55 at one point with me. And I was like, so we got to talk Fozzy. Episode 3, Frank Novinek from Hatebreed. I knew him from, I actually sold him some Kiss memorabilia one time. 4, Fred Corey from Cinderella, my new metal band back in the day. He produced our first demos and our second EP. So I knew him. I'm like, Fred Corey from Cinderella. That's awesome. That's, he's up around, you guys in Philly, right?
Yep.
That's like a Philly staple. You have to like Cinderella if you guys are from up there. 5, Bobby from Primer 55. 6, Chris Cale, Five Finger Death Punch. He was actually in 12 Volt Negative Earth. After I left to join Primer, Chris joined my band. Then Chris went on to Five Finger Death Punch years later. I mean, it's just, Virus from Dope was 7 because we toured with Dope. Primer 55 Dope tour. So, I mean, luckily I had a handful of guests I can reach out to and, get on the show. And hell, I think Doc Hoyle is one of those first episodes too. But yeah, just reaching out and saying hello, hey, I'm doing a podcast. Would you like to come on? Sure, no problem. And I started with like a $25 microphone that I bought off Amazon. And I had a call recorder app on my phone. So my interviews were on my phone. So, I mean, those early episodes are kind of wonky, but I'm the type of person where if I want to do something, I'm like, there's no planning. It was like 1 week I wanted to do a podcast, and the next week I figured out how to do it, and a week later it was live. That was kind of how I did it. And so it's been growing pains over the years, learning how to nicer equipment, got the nicer mic, and then fast forward to even during the pandemic, I'm like, well, let's take some of the stimulus money that I don't really need because of my job never shut down. So I've got extra money coming in. I'm going to buy a computer that's just for streaming, bought a new camera just for streaming, upgraded the Wi-Fi just for streaming. And then honestly, once I got this whole setup ready to go, I get a message from my friend at Knotfest. Hey, we're starting a Twitch channel. Would you like to, we'd like for you to do a show, and I'm like, well, I have the equipment, so I figured it out, so it's just been kind of a steady growth that I've enjoyed, that when it came time to do things, I was prepared and ready to go, over the years, I guess.
Right. The serendipity that came along with it, just being, opportune, good attitude, right place, right time, and I mean, I will say that almost everybody Tim and I have talked to, Tim, I think between my show, your show, then the show we do together, I think that we've only had like 1 or 2 guests where like, I would definitely not call that person again. And I'm not gonna narc these people out on air. We can talk about it off air, but I know Tim's too. I know my too. Everybody seems pretty amenable, and I think in the last year and a half, when everybody's been locked in the house, when you ping someone, you're like, hey, Joshua, I got a podcast. You've never heard of me, and I have like 6 listeners, but everybody's locked in the house. Do you want to take an hour and hang out? Most people have been like, well, yeah, sure. I got nothing else to do. What do you want to talk about? And it's like, well, shit, I wasn't prepared for that answer. Can you give me like a minute here?
That's funny. Yeah, that was the running joke between the podcasters I know, was like, all those people that turned you down and said they didn't have time, call them now because all they have is time.
Yep.
Now you can't use that excuse.
Yep.
That's basically how this started.
Yeah. Yeah. Truth be told. Yeah. It was a long running idea between Tim and I from his other show. And then finally, when we were locked in the house, he's like, hey, we finally just got to get this thing off the ground. Come up with a name and let's do a logo. And I'm like, all right, fuck it. Let's go with it. And well, here we are, whatever. It'd be nice to have it pay the bills, but whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right?
Fun,
it's a nice, it's a distraction. And like you said, Josh, when you're having a conversation where somewhere you have enough historical reference, you don't have to put in all the homework and do notes and stuff. It's really just, hey, I saw you 6 times live. I saw you at the Troc 3 times. I saw you here. I saw you there. It leads to better conversation.
Oh yeah. And I think that people appreciate if you know something about them, and they can tell when you're. So it says here on your Wikipedia that I mean, I think maybe I've asked that a couple of times, but maybe more of like, it says on your Wikipedia that blah blah blah, but I'm pretty sure that's not real, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's all fake.
No.
Like you can kind of make a joke out of it, but it's funny with questions because you don't want to ask like the most obvious questions sometimes. You don't want to be the guy like with if it wasn't about the Black Album and I had to interview Jason Newsted about like the Chop House Band or something he's doing now, you don't want to be like, so on Enter Sandman, you play that, but today I got to because it was nice to, because that's what it was about. But that's the one thing with the Twitch channel is sometimes I can put it off on the people that are watching the Twitch because I read the comments as they're going, and sometimes if there's a decent question in there, I'll ask it. And so sometimes you can ask who is the favorite, who is your favorite band you ever toured with, or what was your first guitar, something kind of generic like that. But it's always prefaced by, hey, Jay in the chat over here is asking, hey man, what was your the favorite band you ever toured with? And sometimes you get a good answer out of that, but you also don't want to be that guy to be like,
Yeah.
You also don't want any dead air live, so it's like you gotta come up with something.
Yeah, where 2 dudes just stared at the camera blinking. It's like, whoa, this is this is a terrible situation right here.
I just had a guest on, and he had a very odd cadence, and he would stop his sentences like halfway and just stop talking. And because normally you're like, and then when you're coming in, and he would just stop talking, and it threw me off every single time. And I've been doing this for 6 years, every week, multiple guests, and it just caught me so off guard that I had to be like super ready to talk every time he stopped, because there was no rhyme or reason to when he was going to stop talking.
Please give us a hint so we never have to deal with it.
Yeah, tell us who to avoid. Like it's and you would think the video makes it easier, but it doesn't necessarily make it easier. It actually makes it a little bit almost tougher, right? Because you're watching the screen, you're like, I can't tell if his video froze or if he froze. Like, is his brain rebooting right now? Do I got to give it 6 minutes? Like, yeah. The woes of podcasting. So we're almost at an hour, Joshua, and I want to be conscious of your time because you got a job and you have 8,000 other things to do. So let's take it home by, if our listeners want to find more information about you, about your show, they want to catch some of your live streams, where do they go? Where do they find you?
The best 2 places are obviously Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is just my name, at Joshua.Toomey, I believe. And in the Facebook, you can follow me, Joshua Toomey, or the Talk Toomey podcast, which is at Talk Toomey Talk on Facebook and Twitter. So you can check out those. I post, every Wednesday or Thursday who's going to be on the Twitch show, which is twitch.tv/NotFestOfficial. That's 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern live. And you can, like I said, you can come into the chat room, chat it up, say hello. I like to, my podcast also comes out on Thursday. So sometimes people will pop in and say, hey, I listened to the show today. This was my favorite part. So there's a lot of fun. So it's 2 hours live, Thursday nights, 5 to 7 on the Knotfest Twitch. Go to knotfest.com under series for Talk Toomey. And there's also a lot of the video content over there. And then you can also come with Knotfest VIP, and then that gets you into some of the exclusive video stuff. And then also pre-sales on Knotfest and limited edition merch and all kinds of crazy stuff too. So yeah, if you're a Slipknot fan or just a fan of podcasts, come hang out with us.
Awesome. Well, on behalf of Tim, myself, Josh, I want to thank you for coming on. This has been great. On behalf of Josh, Tim, and myself, I want to thank all of you listeners for tuning in once again. Find us on Instagram or Twitter at newbreed_podcast, newbreedpodcast@gmail.com if you have a complaint. And we do have, once again, a vibrant Facebook group, and we are not the group supporting New Breed, the Christian rapper from the UK. I feel like I need to throw that one out there. So once again, I want to thank Josh for coming on. I want to thank Tim.
Wait a minute, this isn't the Christian rapper podcast? This whole time, I've been waiting to.
Yeah,
I thought he was
we
gonna
got
pop up any minute now.
We got some stories. So thanks again, all, and until next time, cheers.